The pulse oximeter read 84 and dropping. My 7-year-old son Leo's hand, small and cold in mine, nasal cannula hissing oxygen into lungs that wouldn't cooperate. Pediatric ICU, Bay 4C. My phone buzzed. My wife Vanessa. I took it all. I'm with him. Good luck. Second notification. Wire transfer, $167,000 JUD. Balance, $0. I screenshot the transfer, looked at my boy, typed one word back, noted, she forgot I trace stolen money for a living. Before the revenge unfolds, tap subscribe and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Thank you for being here. The nurse adjusted Leo's cannula. His oxygen crept from 84 to 87, then held. I sat in the chair beside his bed, his hand in mine, and let my mind work backward. My name is Gavin Trask. I'm 41 years old, and I trace stolen money for a living. 13 years at Cascade Security Solutions, a cybersecurity firm in Portland's Pearl District, lead forensic investigator on the financial crimes team, wire fraud, identity theft, shell company schemes. I've followed dirty money through 17 countries and 4 time zones. Personally recovered over $12 million across 40-some cases. Banks and credit unions hire us when their own people can't find the leak. I find the leak. I grew up in Salem with my mother, Ellen, a hospital billing clerk who raised me alone after my father left when I was 4. She worked at Salem Health for 26 years without missing a shift. Packed my lunches through high school. Drove a Honda Civic with 210,000 miles on it because she was putting money aside for my college fund instead of buying herself a car that started on the first try. She didn't make it to my college fund goal. I covered the rest through work study and a partial scholarship at Oregon State, computer science. 4 years of ramen and library couches. Graduated with $18,000 in student loans and a job offer from a small security firm in Tigard that no longer exists. The gift, if you could call it that, was pattern recognition. I could look at a spreadsheet of 10,000 transactions and feel the one that didn't belong, the way a piano tuner hears the string that's a quarter tone flat. My first big case at Cascade, a credit union controller in Bend, had been skimming $800 a month for 3 years by rounding down interest payments and routing the difference to an account in his girlfriend's maiden name. Everyone else saw clean books. I saw a rounding error that repeated on the 7th of every month. My boss, Phil Ochoa, a former Secret Service agent who'd started Cascade after 20 years chasing counterfeiters, pulled me aside after we closed that case. Most people look at numbers and see math, he said. You look at numbers and see behavior. That's rare. Don't waste it. I didn't. By 30, I was running the financial crimes team. The FBI's Portland field office had me on speed dial for complex wire fraud referrals. My salary was good, not spectacular, not flashy, but good. Enough to save, enough to build something. I met Vanessa at a fundraiser for the Children's Museum downtown. She was there with a friend. I was there because Phil had bought a table and needed bodies to fill seats. She wore a blue dress and laughed at something the bartender said, and when she turned and caught me looking, she didn't look away. We talked for 2 hours. She worked in pharmaceutical sales, had grown up in Lake Oswego, liked hiking and wine and weekends at the coast. She asked what I did for a living and I told her cybersecurity, which was vague enough to sound boring. She asked if that meant I fixed computers. Something like that, I said. We married 8 months later. I was 32, she was 29. The wedding was small. Her mother, Brenda Holt, a retired real estate agent from Lake Oswego, had wanted a country club venue with 200 guests and a string quartet. We compromised on a garden ceremony at a friend's property in Hillsboro. Brenda sat in the front row with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Leo came 2 years later, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, born at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. I held him in the delivery room and watched his eyes open, dark and unfocused, taking in a world that didn't make sense yet. Everything changed. Not the way people mean when they say that. I didn't become a different person. I became a more concentrated version of the one I already was. Every decision filtered through a single question: does this make Leo's world more stable? I coached his t-ball team at 4, 12 kids in oversized helmets. Leo picking dandelions in the outfield, looking for me after every play. I was there, every game. I learned to bake because he wanted cookies on Fridays. Not store-bought, homemade, chocolate chip from scratch, cooling on the rack when he got home from school. The first batch I made was raw in the middle and burned on the bottom. I looked up oven calibration, bought a thermometer, adjusted the rack position. The second batch was better. By the 10th, Leo declared them the best in the whole world, probably. We never missed a Friday. The radio room came next. The converted half of our 2-car garage, insulated and drywalled over 3 weekends. I mounted a dipole antenna on the roof peak, set up an ICOM IC 73000 transceiver on a workbench I built from reclaimed Douglas fir. Shortwave. I'd scan frequencies at night after Leo went to bed, picking up cargo ships in the Pacific, weather stations in Alaska, ham operators in Japan. One evening, Leo walked in wearing his pajamas and stood behind my chair. "What are all those sounds?" he asked. "Voices from far away," I said. I lifted him onto my lap and put the headphones over his ears. His eyes went wide. "Where's that one from?" "Container ship. Somewhere between Hawaii and the Philippines." "How do you know?" "Their call sign. Every ship has one, like a name tag." He grinned. "Can I have my own headphones?" I bought him a pair the next day. Wrote Leo on the side in green tape because green was his favorite color. He'd sit beside me at the workbench, oversized headphones swallowing his small head, and I'd explain each signal we caught. Cargo freighters, fishing trawlers, weather buoys. Sometimes we'd just listen to the static together, the hiss and crackle of radio waves bouncing off the ionosphere. Our private ritual. Vanessa never set foot in that room. For 9 years, I transferred between $1,500 and $2,000 every month into our joint savings at Pacific Northwest Credit Union. Automatic. Disciplined. No exceptions. Some months that meant skipping things. No new truck when mine hit 120,000 miles. No golf trips with Phil and the Cascade crew. No renovations to the kitchen Vanessa kept mentioning. The money went where it was supposed to go. Leo's college fund. Family safety net. The wall between us and the kind of emergencies that destroy people who live paycheck to paycheck. $167,000. 9 years of discipline in a savings account earning 4.2%. I bought the Beaverton house the year before Leo was born. A 3-bedroom Craftsman on a quiet cul-de-sac in Murray Hill. $340,000 through Oregon first-time buyer assistance. Nothing extravagant. Good bones, small yard, a kitchen with a magnetic chore chart Leo later decorated with dinosaur stickers. The house appraised last year at $485,000. My single personal luxury, a Seiko automatic watch I bought with my first Cascade bonus. Stainless steel, no frills, keeps time within 4 seconds a day. I've worn it every morning since. It's the only expensive thing I own that exists purely because I wanted it. At work, I had a reputation. Phil put it best during my 10-year review. "You know what makes you good at this," he said, leaning back in his chair. "You're patient. Most investigators want the answer fast. You want the answer right. That's why I give you the cases nobody else can close." My colleague Reggie, a forensic analyst who'd worked the desk next to mine for 6 years before starting his own consultancy, said it differently. "Gavin doesn't react," Reggie told a client once, not knowing I could hear through the conference room wall. "He processes. By the time he opens his mouth, he's already 3 steps ahead of everyone in the room." Plain, patient, methodical, unflappable. Last Thanksgiving at Brenda's house in Lake Oswego, One of Vanessa's cousins asked what I did for a living. He's in computer security, Vanessa said before I could answer. She refilled her wine glass. Fixes networks, that kind of thing. Brenda smiled from the head of the table. Every family needs someone good with computers. I passed the potatoes. That morning, I built a forensic evidence package on a $4.2 million wire fraud case that would put 3 people in federal prison. I traced millions in stolen funds across international borders, testified in proceedings that put people in prison, built evidence packages that prosecutors called airtight. None of them knew. I didn't need them to. Vanessa saw a quiet husband who saved too much and spent too little, who chose his garage radio over her dinner parties, who would rather bake cookies with a 7-year-old than chase the life she thought she deserved. Leo's monitor beeped. I looked at the wire transfer on my phone again. $167,000. Pacific Northwest Credit Union to an account I didn't recognize, routed at 2:14 a.m. while our son fought to breathe. I'd find it. Every transfer leaves a trail. Every trail has a pattern. Every pattern has a person at the end of it. I squeezed Leo's hand and got to work. The erosion didn't start with a fight. It started with a countertop. Brenda drove down from Lake Oswego on a Sunday in September, 2 years before the ICU. She stood in our kitchen with her handbag still on her shoulder, running one manicured finger along the laminate counter where Leo's dinosaur stickers were peeling at the corners. "Is this the same countertop you had when you bought the place?" she asked. "It works fine," I said. "Oh, I'm sure it does." She smiled. "Melissa Chen, you remember her from my book club. She just had hers redone in quartz. White Carrara. You'd think you were standing in a catalog." Vanessa was leaning against the refrigerator, arms crossed, watching her mother the way a junior analyst watches a senior partner walk through a presentation, absorbing the method, not just the message. Brenda opened our pantry, looked at the shelves, closed it. "You know what I always tell Vanessa," she said, pulling out a chair at the kitchen table. "A home should reflect where you're going, not where you've been." "We like where we are," I said. Brenda looked at Vanessa. Vanessa looked at the countertop. That was the pattern. Brenda never criticized directly. She narrated, she observed. She referenced other people's kitchens, other people's vacations, other people's husbands who'd started businesses or moved into new construction in West Lynn. The subtext arrived gift-wrapped in small talk, and Vanessa unwrapped every piece. After Brenda left that afternoon, Vanessa stood at the kitchen sink staring out the window at the backyard, where Leo was throwing a tennis ball for the neighbor's dog. "We should look at remodeling," she said. "We talked about this. The savings are for Leo's fund. It's always for Leo's fund." She turned the faucet off. "Someone in this marriage has to have vision." I dried the dish in my hand and put it away, said nothing. Vision. As if the savings account was a failure of imagination rather than a wall between our son and the kind of emergencies that destroy people. The digs came more often after that, small at first. A comment about the truck when we pulled into a restaurant parking lot next to a new BMW. A sigh when I suggested the Oregon coast instead of Palm Springs for vacation. The way she'd introduce me at her Pilates friends' dinner parties. "This is Gavin. He does computer stuff." Computer stuff. 9 years of marriage, and she'd never once asked me to explain what I did beyond the word cybersecurity. Never asked about the cases, the wire transfers I'd traced across continents, the evidence packages that put people behind bars. I didn't need recognition. But the reduction of my entire career into 2 dismissive words told me something about how she'd categorized me. I wasn't the husband. I was the infrastructure. Phil pulled me aside at the office one morning around that time. He'd just assigned me a new case, a regional bank that suspected an internal breach. "You're the only person I trust with this one," he said. "They've already burned through 2 other firms. I'll have a preliminary by Friday." "I know you will." He paused. "Everything good at home?" "Fine," I said. He nodded the way people nod when they don't believe you but respect you enough not to push. I went back to my desk and got to work. Her spending shifted in the second year. The Pilates membership was $200 a month at a studio in the Pearl District, not the one 5 minutes from our house that charged $80. She needed the Pearl District one because the instructors were better. The instructors at the closer studio were fine. But fine wasn't the point. New clothes appeared in the closet. Tags from stores I'd never heard of. Brands that cost 3 times what the department store versions cost, but looked the same to me. When I asked about a 30-40 jacket hanging in the bathroom, she said it was an investment piece. You wouldn't understand, she added. You've been wearing the same watch for 12 years. I had. It kept time within 4 seconds a day. I didn't see the problem. Her phone became a locked account. Passwords changed. Notifications silenced. She'd pick it up mid-conversation, tap something, set it back down. Who was that? I asked once. Work group chat. She'd left pharmaceutical sales 2 years earlier. I didn't press. That's not how I operate. I noticed, and I filed. The same way I notice a transaction that doesn't match the pattern, a routing number that appears once and never again. You don't grab the thread the moment you see it. You note its position and wait for the full picture to develop. Her social media was its own project. I wasn't on any of the platforms, but Leo's babysitter, a college sophomore named Tina, showed me Vanessa's Instagram one evening when she was scrolling while waiting for her Uber. Mrs. Trask's page is so pretty, Tina said, tilting her screen. I looked. Curated photos of her house shot at angles that made it look twice its size. A wine glass on the porch railing at golden hour, as if we spent evenings drinking Sancerre instead of eating mac and cheese with Leo. A photo of him in new clothes she'd bought for the picture and returned the next day. Captions about gratitude and living intentionally. The version of our life on that screen bore no relationship to the one I lived in. She was building a set, performing a lifestyle 2 tax brackets above reality for an audience of strangers whose approval had become more important than her family's actual well-being. I closed the app and handed Tina's phone back. It's nice, I said. The contempt surfaced in the final year, not loud. She was a subtractor. She removed herself from the routines that held us together, stopped eating dinner with Leo and me, stopped asking about his school day, stopped coming to the radio room door to tell us goodnight when we were scanning frequencies. One night in October, Leo looked up from his headphones. Is Mom mad at us? No, bud. She's busy with work stuff. She doesn't have a job. I kept baking Friday cookies, kept coaching the weekend soccer team that had replaced T-ball, kept transferring $1,500 to $2,000 into savings every month. The wall between my son and catastrophe grew thicker, while the walls of the marriage grew thinner. One Saturday after a game, Leo scored his first goal and sprinted across the field toward me. Did you see it, Dad? Did you see? I saw it. Left foot, bottom corner. He grinned and threw his arms around my waist. Over his head, I watched the other parents checking phones, half watching. Vanessa hadn't come to a game since spring. Vanessa started going to a new gym in September, months before the wire transfer, not the Pilates studio. A fitness center in the Lloyd district with floor-to-ceiling windows and trainers who looked like they'd been cast from a catalog. She went 4 days a week, then 5. Started talking about macros and metabolic windows and a trainer who'd changed her whole approach to wellness. His name was Jared Solis. I didn't learn it until later from the recovered texts. 35 years old. Personal trainer. The kind of man whose name showed up in 3 sets of divorce filings across 2 states. What I pieced together afterward from the texts, from the bank records, from the pattern analysis that is my profession, painted a clear picture. Jared didn't stumble into affairs with married women. He selected them, women with joint savings accounts, women whose husbands traveled or worked long hours, women who felt undervalued and told him so during their 3rd or 4th session when the endorphins and the attention had softened the boundary between client and confidant. He'd done it before. The texts referenced the Eugene thing, the way someone references a past project. mentioned that Tacoma situation as a lesson learned. Vanessa wasn't his first. She was his latest. But I didn't know any of that yet. Not in those months when she came home from the gym flushed and lighter, when her phone buzzed at 10 p.m. and she took it to the bathroom, when she started sleeping with her back to me. The physical distance between us in a queen bed measured in inches but read like a firewall. Nothing passed through. What I noticed was the scrapbooks. Vanessa kept 12 leather-bound albums in the living room bookshelf. Family milestones, all of them. Leo's first steps, birthdays with cake frosting on his cheeks, our trip to Cannon Beach when he was 3 and wouldn't stop collecting shells. Every page arranged with architectural precision, photographs cropped and mounted, printed captions in the same serif font. The albums were Vanessa's best quality, I'd thought. Evidence that beneath the performance and the social climbing, she cared about the family we'd built, that she saw value in documenting it. In March, I pulled the most recent album from the shelf to find a photo for Leo's school project. The last entry was dated September, 6 months of blank pages. Acid-free cardstock, untouched. The plastic sleeves empty. September, the same month she'd started at the new gym. The same month Jared's name first appeared in her life. She'd stopped recording our family the exact week she started planning to leave it. I slid the album back on the shelf and found Leo's photo in the older volume instead. Said nothing about the blank pages. Filed it. The printer was the last sign. Our home office, the spare bedroom Vanessa used for what she called her personal projects, had a laser printer I'd set up 3 years earlier. It ran maybe twice a month. Directions to a restaurant. A recipe from a food blog. Starting in April, it ran at night. I'd hear the mechanical whir through the wall at midnight, 1 a.m., sometimes later. Short print jobs, 3-4 pages at a time. One morning after Vanessa left for the gym, I checked the printer's memory. The Q log showed 22 print jobs over the previous 6 weeks. She'd cleared the output tray each time. No paper left behind. I could have checked the computer's print history, could have opened the documents, read every page. A 2-minute operation for someone with my skills. I didn't. Not because I trusted her. That trust had thinned past the point of function. But because I knew from a decade of professional work that you don't flag a suspicious transaction the moment you see it. You map the full ledger first. Whatever she was printing at 1 in the morning, whatever Jared Solis was whispering in her ear between sets, whatever plan was taking shape in the blank pages of those scrapbooks, it would surface on its own timeline. So I did what I always do. Noticed everything, said nothing, filed it away the same way I filed every anomaly in every case I'd ever worked, quietly, completely, without revealing what I'd observed. Leo asked me that Friday if we could make peanut butter cookies instead of chocolate chip. Your call, bud, I said. We measured the flour together. His hands were still small enough that the measuring cup looked oversized in his grip. He poured, and some spilled on the counter, the laminate counter his grandmother had inspected with such quiet disapproval. I wiped the flour off and we kept baking. The call came at 10:52 on a Thursday morning. I was at my desk at Cascade, 3 monitors running wire transfer logs for a credit union in Salem, when my phone rang. Unknown 503 number. Mr. Trask? This is Lauren Fontaine. I'm Leo's 2nd grade teacher at Bridgeport Elementary. Her voice was tight in the specific way of someone who's rehearsed bad news in the 5 seconds between deciding to call and pressing the button. Leo collapsed during our field trip at Forest Park. Paramedics are with him now. They're transporting him to Providence Medical Center. I was in my truck before the call ended. Left my jacket on my chair. My monitors live. The Salem case files open on all 3 screens. 14 minutes from the Pearl District to Providence on a Thursday mid-morning. I know because I checked my watch when I turned the ignition and again when I walked through the emergency entrance. 14 minutes. Every red light cost me something I couldn't measure. Pediatric, ICU, 4th floor. Glass-walled patient bays separated by pale blue curtains, monitors producing their staggered electronic rhythms from beds scaled down to child-sized dimensions. A nurse at the central station pointed me down the corridor. Bay 4C. Leo looked small. That's what hit me first. Not the equipment, not the beeping, but how small my 7-year-old son looked in that hospital bed. Nasal cannula feeding oxygen into his nose. IV line running medication into his left arm. The medical tape crossing his thin wrist at an angle that made my chest tight. Pulse oximeter clipped to his index finger. Green digits reading 86. His eyes were closed. Captain, his stuffed sea otter, was tucked against the pillow where someone had placed it. I found out later his teacher had grabbed it from his backpack before the ambulance doors closed. Dr. Amara Singh, the pediatric ICU physician on shift, met me outside the bay. Late 30s, dark hair back, composed in the way that comes from managing crises on a weekly rotation. She held a tablet with Leo's intake data. Your son had a severe asthma episode, she said. His oxygen saturation was at 82 when paramedics reached him at the park. We've started continuous nebulized albuterol and IV corticosteroids. His sats are climbing, but slower than I'd like. What does that mean? It means we watch. The next 2 to 3 hours tell us whether he responds or we escalate. His lungs are constricted. We're giving them every reason to open up. What triggered it? Elevated pollen counts at the park combined with exertion on the trail. Has he had episodes this severe before? Once. 2 years ago. ER visit, not ICU. She nodded. I'll reassess at noon. I'm here all shift. I moved my chair tight against the bed rail and sat down. Took Leo's hand. His fingers curled around mine without waking. Muscle memory from every night I'd held that hand while reading to him before bed. The oximeter held at 86, then 85, then 84. I watched those digits the way I watch transaction logs at work. Every fluctuation a data point. Every dip sharpening my focus into something physical. At 11:40, Leo dropped to 83. Dr. Singh adjusted the albuterol dose without alarm, her hands steady, her instructions to the nurse delivered in the flat tone of protocol. By noon, he'd climbed back to 86. At 12,030, 88. The nurse updated the whiteboard on the wall every 30 minutes, dry erase markers squeaking against the surface, in a rhythm I memorized without trying. I didn't eat, didn't leave the chair. My phone sat on the bed rail, screen up, waiting for Vanessa. I texted her at 11:08 a.m. Leo in ICU at Providence. Asthma attack on field trip. Come now. No response. A second text at 12,005. Oxygen is low. They're monitoring him. Please come. Nothing. I checked my watch. 12,047. No reply, no call, no footsteps in the corridor. I told myself her phone was in a gym locker. Told myself she'd see the messages and drive straight here. Told myself that even at her most distant, even after the blank scrapbook pages and the midnight printer and the passwords on her phone, she wouldn't ignore her own son in an ICU. None of those stories held weight, but I sat with them because the alternative was a thought I wasn't ready for. Not with Leo's hand in mine and his oxygen at 88. At 1,000, my phone buzzed. Phil Ochoa, you left 3 screens live and your jacket on your chair. Talk to me. Leo's in the ICU asthma attack. Silence. Then, stay with your boy. I'll handle Salem. He hung up before I could answer. His numbers reached 90 at 1:15 p.m. Dr. Singh came by, reviewed the readings on her tablet, and allowed herself a small nod. Trending well. Not out of danger yet, but the steroids are working. When will he wake up? The medication keeps him drowsy. Let him rest. Sleep is what his lungs need most right now. She moved to the next bay. I stayed. Leo's hand in mine, Captain wedged between his arm and his ribs, the otter's bead eyes aimed at the ceiling tiles. At 1:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Voicemail notification. Not Vanessa, her mother. Brenda Holt, the retired real estate agent from Lake Oswego who'd spent 9 years inspecting my countertops and auditing my ambitions. I put one earbud in, kept the volume low so it wouldn't disturb Leo, and pressed play. 90 seconds. I checked the duration before listening and after. Her voice was even. No pauses, no stumbled phrases, no corrections mid-sentence. This was a recording, not a conversation. She'd rehearsed it. "Gavin, this is Brenda. I'm calling because Vanessa has finally found the courage to leave a marriage that has been emotionally damaging to her for years. You have been controlling and emotionally abusive, and she deserves a life that reflects her true worth. I'm asking you for once to do the decent thing and not contest this. Let her go. She has made her decision, and no amount of your silence and passive manipulation will change her mind. This is over." I played it a second time. Same cadence, same phrasing. Emotionally abusive, controlling, passive manipulation. Not the vocabulary of a mother calling in a burst of anger. This was legal language, accusatory language. Talking points drafted and memorized at a kitchen island in Lake Oswego, polished until the delivery sounded like conviction. I checked the timestamp. 1:47 p.m., noted it, set the phone on the bed rail, looked at my son. His chest rose, fell, rose. The oximeter read 91. Better. A nurse passed the bay, glanced at the monitors, kept moving. I didn't call Brenda back. Didn't call Vanessa. I let the voicemail settle into the filing system that runs behind everything I do. The language, the tone, the confidence of a woman delivering a script she'd committed to memory, all stored, all waiting for the context that would give them meaning. 2 more hours. Leo's oxygen touched 93, dipped to 91, climbed again. Dr. Singh ordered a portable chest X-ray. The tech wheeled the machine into the bay, positioned the imaging plate behind Leo's back without waking him, fired a single exposure. I held the IV line clear of the plate. The tech nodded and wheeled the machine back out. A single data point in a shift full of them. To me, it was the only data point that existed. At 3030, his oxygen reversed. 93 dropped to 89 in 5 minutes. Then 87. Then 85. Dr. Singh returned without being called, adjusted the nebulizer, added a second line of corticosteroids. Leo's breathing turned shallow, each exhale a thin whistle through constricted airways. The oximeter read 84 and dropping. 3:52 p.m. My phone buzzed on the bed rail. Vanessa's name on the screen. 9 words. 3 sentences. Time to arrive. While I sat in a plastic hospital chair holding our son's hand, watching green numbers measure his ability to breathe. The banking app notification arrived seconds behind the text. Red text against white. 6 figures preceded by a minus sign. A balance that read 0, where 9 years of discipline used to live. I screenshot the notification before the number registered. Forensic reflex. Preservation of evidence, the same instinct that makes me image a hard drive before anyone else touches it. Timestamp. Transaction reference number. Receiving account's last 4 digits. All captured in a single screen grab taken on autopilot while the rest of my brain caught up to what had just happened. Then the timestamps. Brenda's voicemail, 1:47 p.m. Vanessa's text, 3:52 p.m., 2 hours and 5 minutes apart. Brenda called before Vanessa texted. The voicemail arrived before the exit message, which meant Brenda knew the plan, knew the script, and fired her part of it early. In my line of work, that's called a timing failure. A participant in a coordinated action executes their assigned role outside the agreed sequence, and the gap between events becomes evidence. Brenda's voicemail wasn't a mother reacting to her daughter's sudden decision. It was a pre-positioned accusation in a planned operation, delivered 2 hours before the main event because someone forgot that timestamps don't lie. Choreographed. The whole thing was choreographed. I typed one word back to Vanessa. Sent it. Set the phone down. Then I opened the banking app and scrolled past the wire transfer to the full transaction history. The headline is never the whole story. That's the first thing you learn in financial forensics. 3 lines below the wire. Columbia Trust Bank. HELOC disbursement. $45,000. Dated 6 days earlier. A home equity line of credit. Drawn against the Beaverton house. The house where Leo's dinosaur stickers still covered the chore chart. The house with the radio room where my son and I tracked cargo ships across the Pacific on Friday nights. I'd never applied for HELOC, never contacted Columbia Trust Bank, never signed a single document authorizing anyone to borrow against the roof over my son's head. I navigated to Columbia Trust's document portal and opened the application. 6 pages. My name, social security number, property tax records, current mortgage balance. All correct. All information Vanessa had as my wife. Page 4, co-borrower authorization line. My signature. The G was wrong. Too much pressure on the downstroke, the loop wider than I make it, and the pen. Whoever signed that document used a ballpoint. I've signed with a fine tip rollerball for 12 years. The line weight was wrong. The ink spread was wrong. She'd forged my name on a federal banking document, borrowed $45,000 against our house, then drained $167,000 from our savings, and timed the whole operation to land while I sat beside our son in an ICU bay counting his breaths. Leo stirred. The second round of steroids had taken hold. The oximeter read 91 and climbing. His eyes opened halfway, glazed from the medication. His hand tightened around mine, and his other arm drew Captain closer against his chest. "Dad?" "Right here, bud." His voice was thin, scratchy from the oxygen and the drugs. "Can we still go fishing this weekend?" I squeezed his hand. "Count on it." He closed his eyes. Oxygen at 93, breathing slow and even. He slept. I opened my laptop on the bedside tray table, connected to the hospital's guest network, and brought up the wire transfer routing details. Source account, intermediary, destination. The receiving account's last 4 digits gave me my starting thread. Every transfer leaves a trail. Every trail has a pattern. I started the trace. It's what I do for a living. The trace took 40 minutes from Leo's bedside, Pacific Northwest Credit Union, to a transit account at a national bank branch, then onward through a Nevada LLC registered 4 months earlier to a single-member holding entity. The LLC's registered agent was a formation service in Reno that charged $199 for expedited filings. No office, no employees, no operating history. A routing waypoint designed to put one extra hop between the source and the destination. The money landed in a personal checking account at a bank branch in Scottsdale, Arizona. She didn't hide it. She just assumed nobody would look. I've built cases against attorneys who charge 6 figures to make money disappear. This was none of that. A personal checking account in the Arizona desert, shielded by a single Nevada shell that any first-year analyst could see through in an afternoon. Vanessa had never watched me work, never sat in my office while I mapped fund flows across continents, never asked how I built the packages that put people in federal prison. She thought wrong. I saved the routing path to an encrypted file, cross-referenced the Nevada LLC's formation date against our banking records, and noted the timeline. The entity was created 2 months ago. The same week, Vanessa changed her phone passwords. Leo's oxygen touched 94, held there. I closed the laptop and sat with his hand in mine until the night nurse made her rounds. Then I sat with it some more. Leo moved to a regular ward Friday morning. Oxygen at 96 and holding. Dr. Singh cleared the transfer with instructions for 48 hours of monitoring before discharge. His color was back. He ate half a turkey sandwich and asked for apple juice. I picked Captain off the ICU pillow and handed the otter to him. He tucked it under his arm without ceremony. "Dad, can I have your headphones?" "They're at home, bud." "When are we going home?" "Couple more days. Let your lungs finish waking up." He accepted that with the trust of a child who has never been lied to by his father. I called Phil from the hallway outside Leo's new room. Leo's out of ICU. I need a few more days. Take a week, he said. Salem's under control. I paused. What I needed next was personal, and Phil and I didn't operate in that territory. I may need to run some personal tools for a non-company matter. 3 seconds of silence. Phil had been married twice. Handle what you need to handle, he said. I didn't hear this call. Sunday morning, Leo cleared 97 on the oximeter for 12 straight hours. I left him with a stack of library books in Captain, then stopped at the nurse's station. I'll be back in a few hours. His mother's name is still flagged? The charge nurse checked her screen. Flagged. No access without your authorization. I drove to Beaverton. The house was quiet. Vanessa's closet half empty, hangers pushed to one side like teeth missing from a comb. Her bathroom shelves cleared of the creams and serums that used to line them 3 deep. The home office door open, printer sitting on the desk, waiting for no one. I went straight to the radio room. 2 monitors, my workstation, Leo's headphones still on their hook, Leo in green tape on the band. I powered up the system and opened the browser. The household iCloud account loaded on the first try. We'd set up a shared family login 3 years earlier for photo storage and Find My Phone. Vanessa had changed her personal passwords in September. She hadn't touched the household credential. A shared login she'd used once and forgotten, the way people forget about the utility bill that still routes to an old address. The account pulled her device backups. Message history stored in the backup data. Deleted conversations recoverable from the archive. 2 months of texts between Vanessa and a contact saved as J. I started reading. The first message was dated October 3rd, 2.5 months before the wire transfer. Vanessa had written, "He doesn't suspect anything. He never pays attention to anything that isn't a screen or that kid. That kid, our son, 7 years old, hospital bed. Nasal cannula." I read the next message, and the next, and the 57 after that. The picture assembled the way fraud cases always do, not as a single fact, but as a pattern surfacing from data points. Each text was a line item in a ledger of betrayal, and I read them the way I'd read 10,000 wire transfer logs cataloging facts. Jared had walked her through the routing structure. Use the formation service in Reno, he'd written on October 18th. Same one I used for the Eugene thing. Quick, clean, costs nothing. The Eugene thing referenced the way a contractor mentions a previous job. On November 2nd, Vanessa asked about the HELOC. How do I sign for him? Jared's reply, practice on a legal pad. Don't overthink the signature. Banks don't compare unless someone complains. She asked about timing. Jared's answer, November 9th, when he can't respond. When he's stuck somewhere and can't walk into a bank or call a lawyer for at least 24 hours. Business trip, family emergency, anything that pins him down. Family emergency. They hadn't known Leo would collapse on a forest trail, but they'd been waiting for any window that would keep me pinned. My son's breathing crisis just gave them one they couldn't pass up. November 14th. Jared on the narrative, your mom needs to call first. Before you text him, say he was emotionally abusive, controlling. Use those words. They hold up in family court. The voicemail creates a record that predates your departure. Brenda's voicemail, 1:47 p.m., 2 hours before Vanessa's text. In Jared's script, the voicemail was supposed to land after the exit message, creating the appearance of a mother reacting to her daughter's courage. Brenda fired early. The timestamp gap exposed the sequence. I scrolled through the deleted messages in the thread. 7 earlier versions of the exit text, composed and discarded over 2 weeks, recovered from the backup archive. Draft 1. I'm leaving you. I've taken what I'm owed, and I'm starting a new life. Draft 3. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't try to find me. Draft 5. I've met someone who sees me. You never did. Draft 7, the version she sent. I took it all. I'm with him. Good luck. 9 words. She'd workshopped them with Jared for 2 weeks. His edit notes sat in the thread, shorter. Don't explain. Don't give him anything to respond to. 7 drafts to end a marriage and a 7-year-old's sense of home. The exit timing was pegged to Leo's school schedule. Vanessa wanted to be out of state before dismissal, assuming I'd be at work and Leo in class. The field trip collapse moved everything forward by hours, but the wire transfer and Brenda's voicemail were already on preset timers and couldn't be recalled. Then I found what I'd been looking for without knowing I was looking. November 22nd, Jared to Vanessa. That Tacoma situation got messy because she talked to her sister before the money cleared. Don't tell anyone, not your mom, until the day of. The less people know the timeline, the cleaner this goes. The Eugene thing, the Tacoma situation. Different women, different savings accounts. Same playbook. I closed the message thread, saved the full conversation to encrypted storage, and picked up my phone. Reggie Tanaka, former colleague at Cascade, now running Tanaka Digital Forensics, LLC, from a third-floor office on SW Alder Street downtown. We'd worked the same desk pod for 6 years before he left to specialize in litigation support and expert witness work. Federal prosecutors in the District of Oregon kept him on speed dial. If I brought this evidence to the FBI myself, I'd read as a scorned husband with an agenda. If Reggie brought it, the package would carry the weight of a certified forensic opinion from a credentialed independent expert. He picked up on the second ring. Gavin, it's Sunday. I need a signature analysis. HELOC application with a forged co-borrower authorization. Federal banking document. Silence. The kind where someone recalibrates what their afternoon looks like. Your signature? He asked. My name, not my hand. Bring it tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Known signature samples too. License, tax returns, anything with original ink. I'll be there at 7:30. Monday morning. Reggie's office smelled like espresso and toner. A glass desk up front for clients. 3 workstations in back for the work that mattered. A framed photo on the wall from a Cascade barbecue in 2019. The two of us holding beers, squinting into the sun. He powered up the high-resolution scanner before I walked in. I handed him the HELOC printout and 3 known signatures, my Oregon driver's license, last year's tax return, and my original Cascade employment contract. He scanned at 1200 dpi, loaded the files into his overlay software, layered my known samples against the HELOC authorization. 3 failures, he said, rotating the monitor toward me. First, pen pressure. Your G and your T have firm, angular downstrokes. No hesitation. He pointed to the HELOC signature. This one wavers. The pressure builds halfway through the stroke instead of starting strong. That's someone copying a shape, not writing their own name. He pulled up the second overlay. Letter spacing. Your hand puts more distance between the K and the next stroke. This forger compressed it. The pattern matches a different hand. He looked at me. Do you have anything your wife signed recently? I pulled up a scanned copy of Leo's school enrollment form from September, Vanessa's signature on the parent line. Reggie overlaid it against the forgery. The spacing matched. There's your forger, he said. The letter rhythm is hers. And the third? He zoomed into the ink line on the G, ballpoint pen, standard medium point. He looked up. What do you sign with? Uniball Vision Elite. Fine tip rollerball. 12 years. 0.7 millimeter width on the forgery versus 0.5 on every known sample you brought me. He saved the overlay file and swiveled his chair to face me. This isn't a gray area, Gavin. She put a forged signature on a loan application at a federally insured institution. That's bank fraud under 18 UU. SC 1344, up to 30 years and $1 million in fines. We're not in divorce court anymore. We're building a federal referral. There's more, I said. The wire routed through a Nevada shell to a personal account in Scottsdale. Jared's messages reference at least 2 prior operations. One in Eugene 18 months ago, one in Tacoma 8 months after that. Same playbook, same routing structure. His expression changed. Not surprise. The look of an analyst who just realized the dataset is 3 times the size he was told. How many victims total? He asked. 3 that I can see from the messages. Could be more. Then we build it right. 1 package, 1 submission, signature analysis, chain of evidence documentation, pattern evidence across jurisdictions. I'll have it formatted for the Portland field office by Wednesday. He picked up his espresso. Let the bureau pull the thread. I drove back to Providence. Afternoon light angled through the blinds in Leo's wardroom, laying pale bars across the linoleum. The monitors here beeped at longer intervals than the ICU, their rhythms slower, more spaced. Leo was propped up on pillows, reading a book about marine animals, Captain wedged between his elbow and his ribs. Dad, did you know octopuses have 3 hearts? I did not. If one stops, do the other 2 keep going? I adjusted the blanket over his legs. Let the question sit for a second. I think so, bud. He turned the page. I opened my laptop and began organizing the evidence into the structure federal agents prioritize. Clean labels, verified sources, every document time-stamped and cross-referenced. The woman who thought I fixed computers had left a trail so clean I could map it from a hospital chair. And the man who'd taught her how had left the same trail in Eugene and Tacoma, across 3 cities and 3 broken families. Patterns are what I find. Reggie called Tuesday morning. I was in Leo's wardroom watching him color a picture of an octopus with 3 red hearts drawn on its chest. I pulled the full transaction history on the Scottsdale account, he said. You need to see this. I left Leo with his crayons and Captain and drove downtown through morning rain that turned the Willamette gray. Reggie had the data spread across 2 monitors in the back room of his S.W. Alder office, espresso untouched and cold beside the keyboard. The account your wife's money landed in didn't start empty. He turned the left monitor toward me. Transaction ledger, full screen, deposits, withdrawals, dates, reference numbers. 2 incoming wire transfers highlighted in yellow, $90,000. 18 months ago, joint savings account at a credit union in Eugene. He pointed to the second highlight, $210,000. 8 months after that, joint account at a bank in Tacoma. Married women, both married, both filed for divorce within weeks of the money moving. He pulled up public records on the second screen. 2 dissolution filings. 2 counties. I read the names. Women I'd never met whose husbands had probably sat in their own kitchens wondering where the savings went. The same account that now held my $167,000. 3 women, 3 cities. 3 savings accounts built over years and emptied in hours. Losses totaling $467,000. Jared Solis wasn't having an affair. He was running a business. The Eugene LLC was formed 2 months before that transfer, Reggie said. Same formation service in Reno. Same registered agent. The Tacoma entity used a different service but the same structure. Single member LLC, no operating history, dissolved within 60 days of receiving the funds. He builds a new shell for each target and kills it after. Clean entry, clean exit. Nobody traces the routing. The shell disappears. The money just arrives in Scottsdale. He leaned back. This is a system. The recovered texts told the rest. Jared walking Vanessa through the forgery, the timing, the narrative. She'd gone along with every step, willing participant in draining our savings and borrowing against our home. But Jared had done this twice before, and the women in Eugene and Tacoma had been discarded the moment the money cleared. He found them, charmed them, used them to access their husbands' accounts, and moved on. Vanessa was his operator for my case. She was also his next disposable asset. She just didn't know it yet. Do we know the women's names? I asked. They're in the transfer records, but contacting them is the Bureau's job, not ours. He was right. Our job was the referral package. The FBI would pull the thread from there. We started Wednesday at 7. Reggie cleared his client calendar. I brought coffee and the encrypted drive holding every piece of evidence I'd assembled since Leo's ICU bed. "How's the boy?" he asked, taking the cup out of ICU, reading about octopuses. He nodded once. A federal referral is a specific thing, not a complaint, not a narrative, not an ex-husband's anger formatted in 12-point font. It's a structured forensic submission that walks an overworked financial crimes agent from probable cause to actionable evidence in the fewest steps possible. I'd built dozens at Cascade for corporate clients. The format was second nature. Reggie mapped the framework on a whiteboard in the back room. 5 sections. Section 1. The fraudulent, HELOC. Reggie's certified signature analysis at its core. 3 independent points of failure, each documented with high-resolution scans and overlay comparisons. His professional opinion attached as a credentialed forensic examiner. "I'm attaching my CV and full certification chain," Reggie said, sliding the analysis into a labeled sleeve. "Federal judges know my name from 4 prior wire fraud cases. A scorned husband gets a polite intake form. A certified forensic examiner gets an assigned agent." Section 2. Wire transfer routing. I documented the complete fund flow, Pacific Northwest Credit Union through the Nevada Shell, LLC, to the Scottsdale personal account, with routing numbers, timestamps, and institutional identifiers at every node. LLC formation date, registered agent, dissolution timeline. Scottsdale account ownership records. Every hop sourced from bank data, not my interpretation. Clean evidence. Let the agents draw their own lines. Section 3. Recovered text messages. 6 weeks of deleted conversations between Vanessa and Jared, organized by date, each timestamped and indexed. I flagged key exchanges without editorializing. The forgery coaching, exit timing, the abuse script Jared wrote for Brenda, the 7 drafts of the 9-word text that ended my marriage. Then, I cross-referenced every instruction against its execution. October 18th, Jared names the Reno Formation Service. October 22nd, the Nevada LLC files with the Secretary of State. November 2nd, Vanessa asks how to forge the signature. November 8th, the HELOC application lands at Columbia Trust. November 14th, Jared scripts Brenda's voicemail. December 12th, Brenda delivers it at 1:47 p.m. Every plan mapped to its implementation. The texts weren't evidence of intent. They were a project timeline with deliverables. Section 4. The timestamp gap. Brenda's voicemail logged at 1:47 p.m. Vanessa's exit text at 3:52 p.m. 2 hours and 5 minutes between them, carrier verified on separate devices. The voicemail's language, emotionally abusive, controlling, passive manipulation, matched Jared's November 14th coaching text word for word. A mother delivering an outraged call 2 hours before the event she was reacting to, reading from a script her daughter's lover had written. Reggie formatted the timeline as a single-page diagram, horizontal axis, carrier-verified timestamps, text excerpts mapped to execution events. Brenda's voicemail positioned 2 hours before the trigger it was supposed to follow. An agent reads this page and sees the full conspiracy in 30 seconds, he said. Section 5. Pattern evidence. The Eugene and Tacoma transfers placed alongside mine. 3 confirmed instances of the same playbook. Shell company formation, coordinated timing, fund routing through intermediary entities to a single destination account. 3 married women targeted. 3 joint savings drained. 3 states. Serial financial predation across state lines involving federally insured institutions, Reggie said, writing it on the whiteboard. Not a domestic dispute. A bureau priority case. We worked through the afternoon. Reggie at his workstation formatting exhibits. Me at the glass desk checking page, references against the master index. His espresso machine hissed between long stretches of silence. The 2019 barbecue photo hung on the wall behind him. A different life. But 6 years of shared casework was the reason this referral would carry weight. Not friendship, credibility. By 4 o'clock the package was done. 47 pages in 5 index sections with a 2-page executive summary, and every document numbered, every claim sourced, every timestamp verified against carrier records or institutional logs. Reggie printed 2 copies, one for the bureau, one for his files. I read the submission copy front to back at the glass desk, page by page, the way I'd review any federal referral before it left Cascade. Page 9 stopped me. Wire transfer confirmation. $167,000 leaving the credit union at 2:14 a.m. on a night when our son was hours from collapsing on a forest trail. Leo's college fund. 9 years of $1,500 transfers on the first of every month. 9 years of no new truck, no kitchen remodel, no golf trips. Every Friday cookie, every t-ball game, every night in the radio room with my son's headphones too big for his head. That's what $167,000 cost from the inside. I turned to page 10, kept reading. It's clean, I said at 4,030. Better than clean. Reggie placed a lid on the submission box. I've sent referrals to that office 9 times. This is the strongest I've built. Because the evidence is that good? Because she made it that easy? He shook his head. She thought nobody would look. Thursday morning, Reggie hand-delivered the referral to the FBI Portland field office on SW Macadam Avenue. Chain of custody form signed and dated. His name on the cover letter. His credentials on the analysis. His professional reputation backing every page. Not a scorned husband with a grievance. A certified forensic expert presenting documented evidence of federal bank fraud, interstate wire fraud, and serial financial predation across 3 jurisdictions. I brought Leo home from Providence that afternoon. His oxygen had held at 98 for 2 straight days. Dr. Singh signed the discharge paperwork and handed me a prescription for a rescue inhaler. He's strong, she said. Keep the inhaler within reach. Leo zipped Captain into his backpack and carried it to the truck himself. Radio tonight, Dad? First thing. Friday passed. Saturday. Sunday. I baked chocolate chip cookies with Leo on his step stool, stirring batter with the wooden spoon he'd claimed at age 4. That evening, we sat in the radio room scanning frequencies, his headphones on, green tape catching the desk lamp. He turned the dial slowly, the way I'd taught him, and stopped when a signal sharpened. A container ship somewhere between Honolulu and Manila, a weather buoy off the Aleutians, static and the crackle of signals bouncing off the upper atmosphere. Monday morning, Reggie's number on my phone. Bureau opened a case file Friday, he said. Financial Crimes Unit. 2 agents assigned. How fast are they moving? Fast. Prosecutors filed an emergency ex parte petition this morning. Asset freeze on the Scottsdale account. All funds held pending investigation. Ex parte. No prior notice to the defendants. Vanessa and Jared wouldn't know about it until the order was already signed and sealed. Timeline? 72 hours for the ruling. Maybe less. I hung up and looked at the calendar on the kitchen wall. Leo had drawn a fish on next Saturday's square. Our fishing trip, Wednesday afternoon. Reggie's name again. Granted, he said. Full freeze. The Scottsdale account is locked. Every dollar in it. Yours, Eugene's, Tacoma's, held pending the federal investigation. Nobody moves a cent without a court order. $167,000. Frozen solid. I was standing at the kitchen counter when the words landed. Leo's dinosaur stickers on the chore chart. The laminate Brenda had inspected with quiet contempt. The house Vanessa had borrowed $45,000 against using a signature she'd practiced on a legal pad. What about Vanessa? I asked. She doesn't know. The order was sealed. She'll find out when the Bureau makes contact. 1,200 miles south in Scottsdale, the woman who told people I fixed computers was spending against a balance that no longer moved, living a life funded by what was now a federal exhibit. She'd find out when her phone rang and a voice on the other end identified itself as the FBI, not because I made a phone call, because the evidence did. The same system I'd fed cases into for a decade had opened a file with her name on it, and the file was airtight. I thanked Reggie and hung up, wiped down the laminate counter, started cutting vegetables for Leo's dinner. The FBI contacted the Eugene victim on a Monday. Reggie called that evening. Leo was in the radio room scanning frequencies, headphones on, green tape catching the desk lamp. I took the phone to the kitchen. "Her name is Claire Watkins," Reggie said. 34, married to a long-haul trucker gone 3 weeks out of 4. Same approach. Joined her gym. Identified the joint savings during their third session. She mentioned it while talking about buying a house. 6 months of flattery later, $90,000 routed through the same Nevada shell to the same Scottsdale account. And Tacoma, Megan Yee, 39. Husband was a Navy reservist deployed to Guam. $210,000 from their joint account. Jared met her through a fitness expo. Same targeting, savings she could access, a husband too far away to notice for weeks. Both confirmed the pattern. Both said the same thing. He identified the money first. The relationship was the delivery mechanism. 3 women, 3 cities, 3 husbands who came home to empty accounts. Losses across 18 months, $467,000. The Portland field office expanded the case from domestic fraud into a multi-state financial predation investigation. 2 assigned agents became 4, Oregon, Washington, Arizona. Reggie called again Thursday morning. I was making Leo's lunch, turkey sandwich, apple slices, a note in his lunchbox reading 3 hearts, like an octopus. They picked up Jared Solis at his Scottsdale apartment, he said. Multiple counts of wire fraud and bank fraud across 3 states. What was on him? Financial documents on his laptop. Contact list. Notes on women he was evaluating. Names, gym schedules, estimated account balances. He kept a spreadsheet of targets. The man who coached Vanessa on forgery and timed a wire transfer to land while our son fought to breathe had also cataloged his victims on his hard drive. The same arrogance that made him believe nobody would trace the money made him believe nobody would search his files. Vanessa, separate notification. FBI agents delivered it to the Scottsdale rental she's been sharing with him. Section 1344. Bank fraud for the forged HELOC, 30 years maximum, and $1 million fine. He paused. My forensic report entered as the government's primary exhibit on the charge. 3 failure points, all documented. The Bureau didn't ask for anything else. Up to 30 years, up to $1 million. For putting a ballpoint pen to a federal banking document and writing the name of a man who hasn't touched a ballpoint in 12 years. Restitution? Bureau's moving on all 3 accounts. Your money, Claire's, Megan's. The Scottsdale funds don't go anywhere except back where they came from. Oregon Family Court convenes 6 weeks later. A Tuesday in January, rain against the courthouse windows on SW 4th Avenue. I wore a suit for the first time since our wedding. Charcoal. White shirt, no tie. Seiko on my wrist. Patricia Yoon, the family law attorney Reggie had recommended, sat beside me with 4 inches of indexed exhibits in labeled folders. Vanessa sat across the aisle, cream blazer, hair blown out smooth, the same posture she'd brought to every dinner party for 9 years, chin tilted, shoulders back, plain to the room. Her attorney, a man named Driscoll in gray pinstripe, had his laptop open and his jaw set. The man who sat in Bay 4C watching his son's oxygen drop wouldn't recognize the one sitting in this courtroom. Or maybe he would. Maybe this was always who I was. I just hadn't needed to be yet. Patricia built the case in the order the evidence was created. Hospital records first. Leo's admission to Providence at 11:14 a.m. Pulse oximeter reading 82 on arrival. Miss Fontaine's 911 call from Forest Park. Dr. Singh's clinical notes documenting the oxygen crisis, the medication protocol, the ICU admission to Bay 4C. Mr. Trask arrived at the hospital 14 minutes after the call, Patricia told the judge. He remained at his son's bedside for 12 consecutive hours. The child's mother was notified by text message at 11:08 a.m. and again at 12:15 p.m. She let the silence hold. She did not respond. She did not appear. Driscoll adjusted his tie but said nothing. Patricia placed the next exhibit on the projector. Vanessa's text. 9 words on the screen, timestamp 3:52 p.m. While her 7-year-old son was in the intensive care unit with oxygen saturation below 85%, Patricia said, the respondent sent this message and initiated a wire transfer of the family's complete savings. Then, the federal indictment. Patricia entered it without commentary. Bank fraud charges, wire fraud conspiracy, the forged HELOC application. The document sat on the projector for 15 seconds while the courtroom read it. Driscoll closed his laptop, slid a note across the table to Vanessa. She didn't look at it. No attorney can construct a case for parental fitness when the parent faces 30 years in federal prison. Driscoll knew it. The judge knew it. Vanessa stared at the respondent's table and said nothing. Then, the voicemail. Brenda's voice filled the courtroom through the speakers. 90 seconds I'd memorized. The rehearsed cadence. The legal vocabulary. Emotionally abusive. Controlling. Passive manipulation. Every word delivered with the confidence of a woman reciting a script she'd practiced at her kitchen island in Lake Oswego. This voicemail was received at 1:47 p.m., Patricia said. 2 hours and 5 minutes before the respondent's exit text. She placed 2 transcripts side by side on the projector. Jared's November 14th coaching text on the left, Brenda's voicemail transcript on the right. Same phrases, same vocabulary. A lover's instructions copied word for word into a mother's voice, recorded and delivered 2 hours ahead of schedule because Brenda didn't understand that carrier timestamps are permanent records. The voicemail Brenda designed to intimidate me into silence had become a prosecution exhibit. Proof the exit was scripted, assigned, and rehearsed between mother, daughter, and lover before a single word of it was true. Brenda wasn't in the courtroom. Her words were, Driscoll stood, Your Honor, regarding custody, my client's relationship with her son, counsel. The judge looked up from the file. I've reviewed the federal indictment, the certified signature analysis, the hospital records, and the recovered communications. The voicemail transcript entered today is timestamped 2 hours before the exit it purports to react to, using language identical to a third party's coaching. She closed the folder. Is there a contested fact you'd like to address? Driscoll looked at Vanessa. She stared at the table. The cream blazer, the blown-out hair, the lifted chin, all still in place. Every surface polished. Nothing behind it. Not in a room where every weapon she'd deployed had been entered, labeled, and turned against her. No, Your Honor, Driscoll said. Full legal and physical custody of Leo Trask is awarded to the petitioner, the judge said. This court finds abandonment during a documented medical emergency, federal criminal charges indicating a pattern of fraud, and a fabricated abuse narrative contradicted by the evidence record. 4 sentences. 9 years of marriage, reduced to a ruling. I signed the custody order at the clerk's window. Patricia shook my hand in the corridor. Clean outcome, she said. As clean as these get. I drove to Beaverton. The craftsman was quiet. Leo at school for another hour. Kitchen counter with his dinosaur stickers on the chore chart. Radio room door open. His headphones on their hook. Green tape catching afternoon light through the garage window. The scrapbook albums were on the living room shelf. All 12. She'd taken $167,000 in savings, forged a $45,000 line of credit against this house, and fled to Arizona with a man who'd run the same scheme on 2 other families. She left the albums. I pulled the first volume from the shelf. Leo at 3 months, sleeping in his car seat. Cannon Beach at 2, shells arranged on a hotel towel. His first t-ball game, helmet falling over his eyes, scanning the bleachers for me. Every page arranged with precision, photographs cropped and mounted, captions printed in the same serif font. Volume after volume. 9 years of holidays, birthdays, Oregon Coast weekends. Leo blowing out candles. Leo in the radio room, headphones swallowing his head, grinning at something I'd said about a freighter's call sign. Leo and me at the kitchen counter, flour on the laminate, Friday cookies cooling on the rack. She documented every piece of the life she was planning to destroy. I opened the 12th album. Pages filled through early September. The last entry dated the first week of the month. After that, blank. October, blank. November, December, empty cardstock in plastic sleeves. Untouched. The last entry was Leo starting 2nd grade. New backpack, front porch, morning light, first week of September. After that, nothing. September, the month she walked into Jared's gym. The month the passwords changed. The printer started running past midnight. The phone calls moved to the bathroom. She stopped recording our family the same week she started erasing it. She took the money and left the memories, valued the cash over 9 years of her son's life, arranged in 12 volumes she'd never open again. I closed the album, set it back on the shelf. At Thanksgiving, she'd told her cousin I fixed computers. At her dinner party, she said, I did computer stuff. 9 years. And she never once asked what wire fraud investigation meant. Never wondered what the man in the radio room did between 8 and 6 at a firm called Cascade Security Solutions. She committed federal bank fraud against the one person in her life who traces stolen money across international borders. Forged my signature with a pen I haven't touched in 12 years. Timed the theft to land while our son lay in an ICU she never visited, coached her mother to deliver a script her lover had written, and assumed, the way she'd assumed for 9 years, that the quiet man who baked Friday cookies and listened to shortwave radio would never look. I looked, found everything, documented it, and handed it to the FBI in a 47-page referral formatted to federal evidentiary standards because that is what I do for a living. I went to the radio room, put on my headphones, turned the dial until static filled the space between my ears, the hiss and crackle of radio waves crossing the upper atmosphere. No voices to trace, no patterns to map, just frequency and distance. Leo would be home in 40 minutes. I'd have his cookies on the rack. Feeling connected to my revenge? Hit like and give me a score from 1 to 10. Explain in the comments. 9 months later, the radio room smelled the same. Solder and cedar. The ICOM IC 730 Ojud sat live on the workbench, its green display cycling through frequencies as Pacific signals moved in and out of range. Leo sat beside me on the stool I'd built him in March. 3 pieces of Douglas fir, sanded flat, the right height for the workbench now that he'd grown an inch since the hospital. His headphones covered both ears and half his forehead. Leo in green tape on the band, the letters wearing thin from months of Friday nights. He'd started 3rd grade in September. His teacher said he was reading 2 years above level. His rescue inhaler sat in the front pocket of his backpack by the door, another in the kitchen drawer, a third in my truck's glove compartment. Dr. Singh had cleared him at his last checkup with a clean chest x-ray and a high 5. The QSL cards on the corkboard had grown, 3 new ones since spring, including one from a ham operator in Osaka who'd sent a hand-drawn cherry blossom on the back. Leo had pinned that one at eye level. The $167,000 was back in the credit union where it belonged, returned by federal order after the asset freeze held. The HELOC voided, the craftsman's deed clean. The custody paperwork sat in the filing cabinet in my bedroom closet behind tax returns and Leo's birth certificate. I hadn't opened that drawer since the day I signed it. Captain sat on the workbench between us, wedged against the wall where Leo had propped him before putting on his headphones. Leo turned the dial the way I'd taught him. Slow, patient, listening for the moment static sharpened into signal. He stopped. Pressed closer to the display. A low, rhythmic tone cut through the white noise. 3 short pulses, a pause, 2 long ones, repeating, "Dad." He pointed at the frequency readout. "Where's that one from?" I listened. The spacing between tones, the frequency band, the maritime prefix in the call sign. "Freighter out of Yokohama," I said. "Bulk carrier from the sound of it. Probably hauling steel or grain." "How can you tell?" "Their call sign. Every ship has one, like a fingerprint, but for the ocean." He grinned. The sane grin from 1,000 radio room evenings. Wide, open, lit by the green digits of the transceiver display. I adjusted the gain to sharpen the signal. The freighter's call sign came through our headphones, crossing 6,000 miles of open water to reach a converted garage in Beaverton, where a father and his son sat side by side, listening to voices from places they'd never visit. The static filled the space between transmissions. I let it.